As 3I Atlas, a traveler from the void between stars, arced around our sun, every astronomer expected a predictable, violent spectacle. They anticipated the object would behave as any comet would under such extreme duress. It would outgas, shedding its frozen volatiles in a brilliant expanding plume. It would fracture under the immense thermal and gravitational stress, breaking apart into a cloud of disintegrating debris. At the very least, it would emerge as a scarred, diminished version of its former self, a testament to the sun's raw, unforgiving power. But 3I Atlas defied every single one of those expectations. In the moments it passed closest to the sun, something subtle but unmistakable changed. As it re-emerged from behind the solar glare, its luminosity, the very light it reflected back at us, began to collapse. Within hours, its brightness curve, the simple graph of its reflected light, plummeted by nearly 60%. No comet or asteroid in recorded history had ever darkened so rapidly without physically disintegrating. Yet, radar echoes sent pinging across the void confirmed the impossible. The object remained perfectly intact. Its silhouette was stable, its form unaltered. It hadn't been destroyed. It had changed. Something fundamental about its surface had been rewritten. It had ceased to be a simple reflector of light and had become an absorber of it. To understand the magnitude of this event, we must first understand a simple concept known as albedo. Albedo is a measure of how much light a surface reflects. A fresh coat of snow, for instance, has a very high albedo. It reflects most of the sunlight that hits it, which is why it stays cold and can be blindingly bright. A black asphalt road, on the other hand, has a very low albedo. It absorbs most of the sunlight, converting it into heat. In a matter of hours, 3I Atlas had effectively switched its albedo from that of a reflective rock to something darker than asphalt. It had, in a sense, changed its very skin, shrugging off a bright, reflective cloak for a dark, absorbent one. How could a natural object perform such a feat of cosmic chemistry without shattering into a million pieces? A simple coating of solar dust or soot couldn't account for the speed and uniformity of the change. This was a transformation that went deeper, hinting at a process far more complex than simple surface heating. And then came the spectral analysis, the moment where confusion hardened into outright disbelief. Every element in the universe, when heated, emits or absorbs light at specific frequencies, creating a unique spectral fingerprint, a barcode that tells us exactly what it's made of. Before its solar pass, 3I Atlas's barcode was consistent with a dense metallic interstellar fragment, a mix of silicates, nickel, and magnesium. It was unusual but not entirely alien. After perihelion, however, its spectrum was overwritten. New lines began to appear in the barcode, fingerprints of highly ionized iron and chromium. These were not just trace elements, they were signatures of the sun's own corona, its superheated outer atmosphere. It was as if the object had not just been scorched by the sun, but had reached out and assimilated a piece of it, fusing solar plasma directly into its own crust. This wasn't a coating, it was an infusion. The object's very composition was evolving in real time, rewriting its chemical identity under conditions that should have vaporized it. The final piece of this initial baffling puzzle came from its motion. As it moved away from the sun, its trajectory was subtly altered. It had slowed down, a minute deviation that, in orbital mechanics, speaks volumes. For an object to slow its forward momentum, it must either be acted upon by an external force or change its own mass. There was no evidence of outgassing jets that would act as thrusters, so the only remaining explanation was a change in its internal inertia. In our everyday experience, this is counterintuitive. But think of a spinning figure skater. When she pulls her arms in, concentrating her mass closer to her center, she spins faster. 3I Atlas did the equivalent of extending its arms, but without changing its size. The only way to achieve that is to increase its total mass. The data was inescapable. This interstellar traveler had not lost mass to the sun's fury. It had emerged from the solar furnace heavier, denser, and darker than when it had entered. It had not endured the fire, it had consumed it. This single event forces us to ask a question that cuts to the core of our understanding of survival. In our own lives, when we face overwhelming force, our instinct is to deflect, to resist, to build walls. But what if true resilience, true survival, isn't about deflecting a force, but about finding a way to integrate it? What if the ultimate form of strength is the ability to absorb the very thing that seeks to destroy you and make it a part of yourself? The idea that 3I Atlas had somehow consumed a piece of the sun was at first a wild metaphorical speculation. But as the data continued to stream in from probes like the Parker Solar Probe and the Solar Orbiter, the metaphor began to look unnervingly literal. Scientists monitoring the solar wind, the constant high-speed hurricane of charged particles that the sun breathes out into space, detected something extraordinary. For a span of 40 seconds, at the precise moment of 3I Atlas's closest approach, a measurable amount of plasma simply disappeared from the region immediately surrounding it. Instruments registered a temporary drop in electron density, a localized void in the solar wind, as if a hole had been punched in the fabric of the storm. There was no flare, no visible eruption, just a sudden, inexplicable absence. It was as if something in that zone had opened a gate and swallowed a pulse of energy whole. This was not a passive interaction. This was an active absorption. And the instruments captured the receipt. In the very same instant that the plasma void appeared, the faint, shimmering halo of plasma that had formed around 3I Atlas brightened sharply, flashing from its usual ethereal blue to an intense, brilliant white, before settling back down. It was a cosmic indicator light, a signal flare that announced a successful energy intake. The energy hadn't vanished, it had been transferred. The local temperature of the surrounding space dropped slightly, consistent with a sudden loss of kinetic energy, while 3I Atlas itself showed a minor but measurable increase in its thermal output. The missing energy had found a new home. This event was not a chaotic one-time fluke. The telemetry graphs, replayed frame by frame, revealed a stunning pattern. The absorption was cyclical. The object's magnetic field would pulse, the void would appear, the halo would flash, and then the system would stabilize, repeating the entire sequence at precise intervals. It was a rhythm, a cadence, a process so regular it resembled a breathing cycle. Nature, of course, is full of rhythms, the ebb and flow of tides, the seasons, the beat of a heart. But these rhythms are almost always a response to external, often chaotic forces. The rhythm of 3I Atlas felt different. It felt internally generated, controlled, and deliberate. It was this precision that led scientists to a mind-bending hypothesis: resonance capture. To understand this, think of a trained opera singer who can shatter a crystal glass with her voice. She doesn't do it with sheer volume. She does it by finding the precise, resonant frequency of the glass, the one frequency at which it naturally wants to vibrate. By matching that frequency, she pours energy into the glass until its own vibrations tear it apart. Now imagine a system that could do the opposite. What if 3I Atlas was able to vibrate, or pulse its magnetic field at the exact resonant frequency of the solar plasma? Instead of shattering it, what if it could use that resonance to create a coherent channel, drawing those charged particles in, converting their kinetic motion into stored energy? This is a process that exists only in the most advanced theoretical physics, a feat of engineering that we can barely conceive of, let alone build. Yet the data suggests this interstellar object was doing it naturally, or at least with a proficiency that implies it was anything but natural. This act of controlled absorption offers a profound lesson for our own lives. We are constantly battered by a solar wind of information, stress, conflict, and chaos. Our typical response is to put up shields, to resist, to fight back. But this often leaves us drained, fractured, and diminished. 3i Atlas presents a different model. It suggests that wisdom lies not in resisting the storm, but in finding its rhythm. It's about learning to discern the frequency of the challenges we face, and instead of being broken by them, finding a way to draw energy from them. It is the essence of turning a crisis into an opportunity, transforming a source of stress into a source of fuel. So I ask you to reflect on this. Have you ever faced a challenge so immense a period of your life, so overwhelming, that the only way through was not to fight it, but to stop, listen, and find a way to absorb its energy and use it to propel you forward? Think about the moments of greatest pressure in your life. Did you let them sandblast you into dust? Or did you, even unknowingly, find a way to absorb the heat and reforge yourself in the fire? In the hours and days that followed its solar passage, the mystery of 3i Atlas deepened. It was no longer just a question of what happened, but how. The object began to exhibit a suite of coordinated behaviors that were less like a celestial body and more like a finely tuned machine. The first and most startling of these was its magnetic field. Our own planet, Earth, has a powerful magnetic field that shields us from the solar wind. This field is generated by a colossal engine in its core, a churning, rotating ball of molten iron thousands of miles wide. 3i Atlas, an object barely a few kilometers across, should have no magnetic field to speak of. Yet magnetometers across 3 separate solar missions detected a localized magnetic envelope surrounding it, a field that pulsed in perfect synchronization with its thermal output. It was a dynamic, adaptive shield, expanding and contracting in response to solar activity. It was behaving not like a passive rock, but like a spacecraft deliberately activating its radiation shields in anticipation of a storm. Then came the structural silence. This is perhaps the most unsettling piece of the entire puzzle. When scientists use radar to probe a planet or asteroid, they send a powerful radio wave towards it and listen for the echoes. These echoes paint a picture of the object's interior, revealing layers, cavities, and fractures, its internal structure. When the Goldstone Deep Space Communications Complex aimed its powerful radar at 3i Atlas, the result was an unprecedented, deafening silence. The radar beams struck the object's surface, and then they simply vanished. There was no reverberation, no internal scatter, no echo from a deeper layer. The only return signal was a clean, flat reflection from its outermost boundary. The object's interior was completely opaque, acoustically dead. To put this in perspective, even a solid block of iron will scatter radar waves internally. 3i Atlas did not. The energy entering it seemed to neutralize itself, leaving nothing to return. The closest human-made analog we have for this behavior is the stealth coating on advanced military aircraft, which is made of radar-absorbent materials designed to scatter and absorb signals to avoid detection. But 3i Atlas was doing something far more advanced. It wasn't just scattering the signal, it was canceling it. This suggests a fantastically complex internal structure, perhaps a kind of metamaterial engineered at the molecular level to produce phase cancellation, a structure where every incoming wave is met with its perfect mirror opposite, erasing both into nothingness. It was a machine made to be invisible, to keep its secrets locked away from any form of probing radiation. This internal silence was protected by the external halo. The shimmering blue-white glow was not just a random discharge of energy, it was a magnetically bound cocoon. It was a piece of the sun's own atmosphere, captured and held in a perfectly symmetrical elliptical shell by the object's own magnetic field. The fact that this halo remained stable for hours and days after leaving the sun's immediate vicinity meant it was being powered from within. The object was using its stored energy to maintain this protective plasma shield. A magnetic field, a stealth interior, and a powered plasma shield. Taken individually, each is an anomaly. Together, they form the unmistakable signature of a system. a system designed for one purpose: survival in the harshest environments the cosmos can offer. This brings us to a crucial lesson about our own lives, about the nature of human resilience. We often think of strength as a hard outer shell, an impenetrable wall we build to keep the world out. But such walls are brittle. They can be shattered. The story of Three-Eye Atlas teaches us that true resilience is not external, but internal. It is the strength of our inner structure, our values, our knowledge, our core beliefs, our support systems, that allows us to navigate the storms of life. This internal framework is what allows us to process stress and negativity without letting it break us. It is our personal structural silence, the quiet, unshakable core that absorbs shocks and neutralizes chaos. So I invite you to ask yourself, what is the internal structure that grants you your resilience? When the radar of life pings you with challenges, criticism, or doubt, do you shatter, or do you have an inner silence where that energy can be absorbed and nullified, leaving your core intact? What is the magnetic field and of principles and relationships that you generate to shield yourself, not by blocking the world out, but by gracefully managing its influence? Of all the mysteries presented by Three-Eye Atlas, the most profound, the one that bends the known laws of physics to their breaking point, is what scientists began to call the density paradox. The data was unambiguous. Following its perihelion passage, the object's mass had increased, causing it to become roughly 8% denser. Yet its physical size, its volume, had not changed at all. This should be impossible. Matter cannot simply be created from nothing, and you cannot pack more stuff into a box without either making the box bigger or compressing its contents with unimaginable force. The new mass had to have come from the solar plasma it absorbed. But how did it integrate billions of tons of new material into its structure without expanding or exploding? The most plausible natural theory was that the object's interior contained voids or microcavities, that it was something like a metallic sponge. The intense heat of the sun could have caused these internal structures to melt and collapse, fusing the material into a denser, more solid form. This would increase density while maintaining the same external shape. But this explanation ran into a formidable obstacle: the uniformity of the change. A random, chaotic collapse would result in an uneven, unbalanced distribution of mass, causing the object to wobble or tumble as it rotated. Three-Eye Atlas did not. Its rotation remained perfectly stable, its new density distributed with flawless symmetry. The compression was not a random event, it was a controlled, coordinated process, as if the entire body had reformed itself from the inside out. As it began its long, silent journey away from the sun, its behavior continued to defy expectations. It did not cool down in the predictable logarithmic curve of a heated rock, losing its energy to the cold vacuum of space. Instead, its temperature plateaued, settling into a stable, consistently warm state. It was actively managing its internal heat, retaining the energy it had harvested from the sun. This led to the appearance of a new, cautiously uttered phrase in internal memos: standby mode. A machine in standby mode is not off. It is in a state of low-power readiness, conserving its energy, keeping its core systems active, prepared to power up again when needed. This implies not just reaction, but foresight. It suggests a system designed for incredibly long journeys, a machine capable of harvesting energy from a star and rationing that power for a voyage across the silent, empty eons between solar systems. Its departure was not a simple drift either. Minute, almost imperceptible deviations in its trajectory suggested it was not merely coasting. These were not the random wobbles of an inert object. They were consistent, subtle corrections. It was as if it were using a tiny fraction of its stored energy for propulsion, gently steering its course. It was a self-sustaining engine, powered by the sun, now navigating the void. This entire sequence, the absorption of a destructive force, the paradoxical increase in core density, and the subsequent entry into a stable, powered-down state, is a powerful metaphor for the human experience of post-traumatic growth. We often speak of being broken by trauma, or of surviving, a great challenge. But there are times when we do more than survive. We face a trial by fire, an event so intense it threatens to annihilate us, and we emerge from it not weaker, but stronger. We integrate the experience, and it becomes part of our core. We become denser, more solid in who we are, our values and purpose forged and compressed into something unshakable. The paradox is that the very thing that was meant to destroy us becomes a source of our greatest strength. Think back to a time in your life when you faced your own perihelion, your own trial by fire. Did you come out of it scarred and diminished? Or did you, perhaps without even realizing it, absorb the energy of that experience and use it to increase your own density? Did you emerge with a stronger sense of self, a clearer purpose, a resilience you didn't know you possessed? The journey of 3i Atlas suggests that this is not just a psychological phenomenon, but perhaps a fundamental principle of advanced existence. That which does not kill you does not simply make you stronger. It becomes you. The passage of 3i Atlas has left the scientific community fractured, standing at a crossroads that forces a choice between two equally staggering possibilities. One path, as one physicist grimly put it, means we must start rewriting physics. This path holds that 3i Atlas is a purely natural object, a one-in-a-trillion cosmic fluke formed in an environment so alien that it produced materials and processes that behave like technology. It suggests that the universe on its own can create self-regulating, energy-harvesting, stealth-capable machines without the need for a designer. The other path means we must start rewriting history. This path accepts the overwhelming evidence of intention and concludes that 3i Atlas is an artifact, a piece of technology, a probe or vessel built by an intelligence far beyond our own. It means we have just witnessed, for the first time, a functioning piece of extraterrestrial engineering. Both of these paths, however, lead to the same destination: a fundamental and irreversible shift in our understanding of the cosmos and our place within it. The core of this shift lies in the concept of optimization versus randomness. Nature is a brilliant engineer, but it works through the slow, chaotic, and inefficient process of evolution and natural law. Its solutions are often messy and imperfect, the result of endless trial and error. 3i Atlas, in every aspect of its behavior, screams of optimization. Its energy absorption was efficient. Its structural reconfiguration was precise. Its energy conservation was perfect. Its motion was controlled. This is not the signature of chaos. It is the signature of a solution that has been found, refined, and perfected. It is the hallmark of design. Whether that design is the product of an unknown law of physics or the hand of an unknown creator, the lessons it offers for humanity are the same. They are lessons not about the stars, but about ourselves, about how to navigate our own journey through the often chaotic environment of life. The first lesson is a redefinition of resilience. True, lasting strength is not found in building higher walls or harder shells. That is the way of brittle things, things that eventually shatter. True resilience is an internal process. It is the development of a coherent inner system, your principles, your self-awareness, your capacity for growth, that allows you to absorb external shocks, process negative energy, and integrate challenges into your very core. It is the art of turning the heat of adversity into the fuel for your own forging. Like 3i Atlas, we can learn to face the fire not with fear, but with a quiet readiness to be transformed by it, emerging denser and more whole. The second lesson is about the power of silence and observation. In our world, we are obsessed with noise. We search for meaning in loud declarations, in constant communication, in signals and messages. 3i Atlas communicated nothing. Its most profound statements were made in its perfect silence, its unwavering rhythm, its quiet, methodical functioning. It teaches us that the deepest truths are often not spoken, but demonstrated. They are found in patterns, in consistency, in the quiet, repeated actions that reveal underlying purpose. In your own life, what are the silent patterns trying to tell you? What truths are revealed not in what people say, but in the consistent, rhythmic way they live their lives? The universe, it seems, speaks in a language of function, not words. The third lesson is a necessary expansion of our definition of intelligence. For too long, our search for extraterrestrial intelligence has been a search for ourselves. We scan the skies for radio signals, for language, for evidence of biological beings who think and act as we do. 3i Atlas offers a humbling alternative. It suggests that intelligence may not always be biological or communicative. It may manifest as a function, as a system that has achieved a perfect, sustained equilibrium with its environment. It is the intelligence of a pattern, of a process that endures across eons by mastering the fundamental laws of energy. It is an intelligence that is ancient, patient, and utterly indifferent to our observation. It invites us to look for intelligence not just in beings, but in systems, not just in messages, but in behavior. Finally, the journey of 3i Atlas teaches us about the wisdom of standby mode. Its long, quiet departure, conserving its harvested energy for the immense journey ahead, is a perfect model for a sustainable life. Our culture celebrates the constant burn, the endless hustle, the perpetual state of high output. But life is not a sprint. It is an interstellar voyage. There are times for intense engagement, for facing our own perihelions, and there are times for quiet conservation, for entering a state of active rest where we integrate what we have learned and recharge for the next stage of the journey. The wisdom lies in knowing the difference, in mastering the rhythm of our own energy. Are you living your life in a constant state of emergency burn, destined for burnout? Or have you learned how to enter your own standby mode, to cruise silently and efficiently, saving your power for the moments that truly matter? The story of 3i Atlas is not over. It has simply moved beyond the reach of our instruments, a fading heartbeat in the dark. It leaves us with a question that will echo through the coming generations. Are we alone? The answer that 3i Atlas provides is more complex and profound than a simple yes or no. It suggests that we might be alone in our specific, noisy, biological form of consciousness, but we are not alone in the universe of intelligent systems. We are surrounded by a cosmos that may not just contain life, but may itself be a form of living memory, a place where patterns of intelligence endure in silent, perfect, functioning forms. As you go about your day, I hope you carry this story with you. Look at the challenges you face not as threats, but as opportunities to absorb energy and increase your own density. Listen for the silent patterns in your life and in the world around you, and learn to honor the rhythm of your own energy, knowing when to burn bright and when to enter the quiet, powerful stillness of standby mode. The universe is far stranger and more magnificent than we have ever imagined, and its greatest secrets may be written not in fire, but in the silence that follows. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I wish you health, resilience, and a clear, quiet mind as you navigate your own path through the stars. If this story has resonated with you, please consider subscribing to the channel for more explorations into the deepest questions of our existence.